11:30 at the St. Petersburg time. And now, next presentation in English. Dr. Elie Foussé from Helsinki University. The title is Possibility and Challenges of Interdisciplinary Collaboration Work on Japanese Resources. The case of the special course Kuzushi-ji seminar at the University of Helsinki. 布施先生、よろしくお願いいたします。どうぞ。
Hello, everybody. I'm Elie Foussé from University of Helsinki, Finland. It is my pleasure, great pleasure, to have a presentation today at the 31st European Association of Japanese Resource Specialists. This presentation entails a case of how Japanese materials and resources were used for an educational purpose, what kind of achievements were implemented through this case, and how implementations were evaluated in a Finnish university. As a researcher, my research interests are topics related to Japanese society and culture, and I utilize Japanese resources. I also currently teach Japanese language and culture at bachelor and master programs in languages at the University of Helsinki. Today, I hope to discuss this case not from a researcher's viewpoint, but from the view of a teacher who utilizes Japanese materials for teaching. I will also discuss challenges related to the output of teaching performance. The reason why I would like to talk about this case today here is based on the reality of the recent challenges in obtaining financial support for infrastructures and activities of using resources. This is likely a global issue. Moreover, while information on the usage of Japanese materials for teaching has been shared among teachers, but not between teachers as users of resources and others, for example, those who offer these resources. Thus, one of the purposes of today's presentation is to visualize the usage of Japanese resources for teaching. The case surrounds the special course Kuzushi-ji seminar at the University of Helsinki during the 2019 to 2020 academic period. The course was conducted for the master program of languages based on the Kuzushi-ji seminar offered by Nagoya University in autumn 2019. First, I would like to present the result and contributions of the course, and then move to critical evaluation of these results and contributions in light of academic performance. This course brought about many fruitful results and had substantial support from the seminar's lecturers, librarian at the Finnish National Library, and key persons in the field of Japanese studies outside of the university. However, with the exception of one publication that the course participant and teacher composed with significant support by Professor Tsuda from Keio University, there were several other achievements did not fulfill the evaluation criteria by the Ministry of Education and Culture in Finland. The ministry is a main actor in the evaluation of activities at Finnish universities. Additionally, there is an absence of a pedagogical framework to utilize resources for teaching and to produce outputs from this usage. Challenges also exist in cooperating with organizations outside of the university. I would like to deliberate on a more efficient and strategical method and construct a model for utilizing Japanese resources for educational purposes. I believe that this ultimately leads to a more sustainable environment for various actors to access and use resources. It is my sincere hope that I will be able to acquire advice and suggestions from today's audience in order to improve a model of utilizing Japanese resources for teaching. As previously mentioned earlier in the presentation, the special course at the University of Helsinki was integrated with the Kuzushi-ji seminar offered by Nagoya University. The seminar was supported by the Japan Society for the Promotion of Science program for advancing strategic international networks to accelerate the circulation of talented researchers. Dr. Yuki Hata from the Nagoya University at that time, and me, Fuse from the University of Helsinki, were the planners of the seminar. The seminar was intended for students of the University of Helsinki, but it was also open to public. The average number of participants in each lecture was around 30 individuals. The last lecture by Professor Sasaki had the highest number of participants, and this could likely be attributed to the fact the lecture was interpreted from Japanese into Finnish. In overviewing the profile of participants who attended the seminar, majority were people outside the university, including alumni members of the university. Lectures offered great opportunities for the seminar participant to see real materials of the Muromachi period and the Edo period, and audiences appreciated the experience of seeing rare and valuable materials. We were somehow surprised to find that within the profile of participants, very few people were willing to join events conducted in Japanese language without language interpretation. Through the survey, which was conducted after the seminar, we also discovered that there was considerable number of people in Finland who were interested in Japanese pre-modern literature. Through this course, a network was constructed not only between students and researchers and between Japan and Finland, but also among individuals both within and outside the university. The organizers of the course recognized strong interest in Finland towards Japanese literature, and Dr. Hata and I are currently considering to plan a further event, Japanese literature and food. As a part of this course, the students and the teacher arranged the Japanese collections exhibition at the Finnish National Library. This idea was not originally planned by the teacher. Rather, it was suggested by Mr. Tero Saroma, who had presented the Japanese collection in this EAJRS conference in 2017. The responsible librarian willingly received this idea since he was impressed with the popularity of the Kuzushi-ji seminar. He was also confident that an exhibition could rather a potentially large amount of attention. The exhibition received a respectable reputation from both participants of the seminar and others who were not involved with the seminar. For example, Japanese language learners in junior high school and high school visited the library to see the exhibition. This led to further consequence that materials in the Japanese collection were electronically catalogued. I have heard from the responsible librarian of the collection, Mika Hakkarainen, that there were several attempts to implement online cataloging of the collection. Unfortunately, this did not come to realize as a consequence of financial constraints and limited resources. In this case, there was no permanent librarian who could deal with Japanese resources at the Finnish National Library. Through a series of coincidences, the online cataloging eventually occurred. One of the seminar participants, Pauliina Vuorinen, was preparing as a librarian and applied for her internship to the National Library just after the seminar. The responsible librarian of the Japanese collection, Mika, found her CV and discovered her skills in the Japanese language. As interview was arranged, and he inquired on whether she was interested in cataloging the Japanese collection. Pauliina got to be familiar with the Japanese collection through the seminar and admitted that she was more than willingly to take charge of the online cataloging task. Thanks to the presentation of Tero at EAJRS, Mr. Yasue visited the National Library in Finland. As a result, librarians at the Finnish National Library became aware of the necessity of materials in the Japanese collection. Ultimately, these steps led to the realization of the online catalog of the collection. We also attained 7 complete articles publications through the collaborative work between course students and teachers. One of the examples is a joint article with Professor Mayumi Tsuda from Keio University on a Gohon book, Kanadehon Chusingura, owned by Finnish National Library. No amount of price for Professor Tsuda would be sufficient. Professor Tsuda guided and supported students, none of whom were not specialists of pre-modern Japanese literature or familiar with the process of Japanese academic publication. Some lecture summaries were also translated from Japanese into Finnish and were published in member journal of the Nihon Bunka Tomo no Kai Association. Members of the association are those involved with Japan through their work or individuals interested in Japanese culture. Currently, lectures from Professor Sasaki and Dr. Hata have already been published. Lectures by Professor Tsuda and Professor Ishikawa are set to be published on the same platform by the end of this year. The work of publishing the seminar lectures brought about significant opportunity to translate advanced knowledge of pre-modern Japanese studies literature into the Finnish language. I now wish to proceed to the critical evaluation of these achievements. The course brought about fruitful results with transnational and interdisciplinary cooperation. The knowledge of pre-modern literature, Japanese literature, was distributed in the Finnish language to the appropriate audience. The course also carried diverse implementations as a result of great support from lecturers and librarians. Professor Tsuda's opportunity to present local materials in the Japanese collection at her lecture was beneficial and valuable for both course participants and seminar audiences. This ultimately resulted in the achievement of the collection's online catalog, and it promoted access to the materials for participants according to their needs and interests. One of my students decided to study material in the collection for his master's thesis project. The event was also beneficial for constructing a transnational and interdisciplinary network. However, at my consultation with a University of Helsinki specialist supporting teacher and researcher funding acquisition for further event Japanese literature and food, I was told that publication aside from the article with Professor Tsuda did not fulfill the evaluation criteria by the Ministry of Culture and Education in Finland. According to the specialist, the project integrated the philosophy of open science in a wider context as a fundamental value of science. It also strengthened the relevance of research in society and the accessibility of knowledge to all. Unfortunately, the method of distributing knowledge was deemed as not appropriate for evaluation evidence. In specific terms, activities based on the idea of open science in a wider meaning were not distributed in appropriate method that followed the policy of open science. In Finland, the Ministry of Education and Culture's financing models focus on open science as a significant key factor. The appropriations for co-funding are generally allocated to the university on the basis of their teaching and research performance. Thus, the ministry's evaluation affects the allocation of funding for the next academic year's performance at universities, and this is crucial for university staff to offer high-quality teaching in practice. This begs the question, what led to this situation? Why wasn't performance following the principle of open science evaluated as a result that followed the principle of open science? I analyzed that this problem was concerned with challenges in distributing results produced by students and the lack of pedagogical framework to utilize resources for educational purposes and to promote outputs from this usage. I was challenged with finding platforms to present the performance through the course. As the actors were students enrolled in a master program, possible platforms for publication were somewhat restricted. One might consider the possibility of having the teacher polish students' work in order to ensure it is published in an academic journal. However, it was my wish to respect the students' work as it was their own achievement implemented through accessing and using Japanese materials and communicating with the seminar lecturers, librarians, and participants. In this situation, I decided to inquire on the possibility of publishing these student works to the member journal of Nihon Bunka Tomo no Kai. I was a bit disappointed, to say the least, when I discovered that the students' performance was not regarded as academic performance, academic evidence for the evaluation, even though their performance was achieved with interaction with both academic resources as a society outside the university. The founding acquisition specialist advised me to consider outputting the students' performance on the department blog, as this could be regarded as evidence based on the principle of open science, as well as merits for further founding attainment. I am now planning to present student work to the department blogs. One may find it easy to criticize the evaluation criteria of the Finnish ministry, as it does not evaluate the performance of using materials and method of societal interactions. The ministry also mentioned limitation of the evaluation criteria, and there is a significant diversity in the method of societal interaction and impact, and this diversity is realized in different disciplines. However, the severe reality is that it is rather challenging to obtain funding for utilizing materials. Additionally, funding actors tend to shift their focus gradually from maintaining infrastructure to research project itself. A planner or a coordinator who creates an environment of using materials for an educational purpose must also consider the sustainability of the environment itself. There was also a lack of previous studies to serve as a pedagogical model of using Japanese materials, transnational and interdisciplinary cooperation and collaboration work between different disciplines of Japanese studies. The possibilities of using Japanese materials could be used not only as resources for learning Japanese history and culture, but also for learning the contemporary Japanese language. In this sense, it is essential that a pedagogical framework is generated for using Japanese materials for an educational purpose. Today's case shows that the collaboration with different actors, such as the seminar lecturers, librarian, and key persons in the field of Japanese studies outside the university, brought about many fruitful results. I believe that the sustainable model and strategy could bring forth many advantages in tackling financial constraints, such as in Finland, where Japanese resources are rather limited. It may also lead to further various types of collaborations, particularly with regard to utilizing Japanese resources, not only for research, but also teaching in the future. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Riefuse. This activity based on communication between Dr. Hatta Sensei from Nagoya University, and you presented before, and how it would have been evaluated in Finland is really interesting. And maybe we didn't listen to so much this type of presentation, and they're really interesting, and the hard reality we have to tackle it. So do you have some audience have some questions? Please raise hands. Okay, I have something I would like to ask. One thing is, of course, criteria of the ministry is one thing, but how about inside of university? Because this activity was absolutely popular, very popular, both inside and outside of the university in Finland. And what is the reaction inside of the faculty and the university?
About the evaluation of this event itself, you mean?
Yes, and the activity, and not just independent from an official evaluation.
Yes, thank you for very interesting and important question. Yes, this event was evaluated quite well inside of the university, especially the Faculty of Arts, because it is a kind of rare type of events which gathered attention from outside of the university. It's quite difficult to make a cooperation between inside of the university and outside of the university, but this event was a kind of regarded as a successful example how we can cooperate or get attention from outside of the university.
So, and you use the word at open science, and usually, if open science is really scientific criteria they are using in universities, but also open science should be lifelong learning system. So if think and your intention is really nice, I think, and maybe today the criteria is really strictly decided inside of the higher academic activities. But if you mentioned about the faculty blog, maybe this also may be introduced, and maybe not directly, but you are presented. But we're talking about digital humanities and a new type of research activities in humanities from now on, and a little bit less formality activity that maybe become more reality in future for humanities field too, I guess. So it is really trial new type of activity, and even the evaluation is not so directly just only positive, but never give up. I hope you continue to have guts to keep this activity, but I understand it takes many energy for you to make whole framework. And how do you feel this activity yourself?
Yeah, I myself, thank you for very strong encouragement and empowerment. And I myself was quite satisfied with this event. And through this event, I have met a lot of people, not only researchers from Japan, but also people from outside of university, because this 2019 was the second year of my current position. So I have gotten I got very good opportunity to meet different people. But I was very shocked to know that this reality, the evaluation by the ministry, and the issue of open science is very topical now in Finland, and a lot of discussion inside of academic. So the definition of open science is very unclear. So for example, Academy of Finland, like in Japan, JSPS, already decided to offer funding for project which only publish their work in open science publication. Quite strict for. Yeah. At the same time, university use this term open science in a very wider meaning as a kind of philosophy of research or activities. So we have to learn more about open science issue, but at the same time, very confused. So today's presentation is a kind of one example of confusion.
Yeah.
Myself.
Yeah. But I think maybe the situation in European universities is almost the same as you. But at the same time, to appeal to the both student and audience outside of the university is really crucial to keep up Japanese studies. So, and I had a chance to join some of this activity, and I'm really amazed so popular people at this seminar was, and I really hope that this kind of activity will be continued, and maybe in future they find this is also important activity in academic universities. How about other commentators? Hata sensei, are you here? No?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you some comment?
But thank you for your presentation, 布施先生。すいません、日本語でいいですか？
はい、いいですよ。
すいません。大変、セミナーの成果ですね、お聞きできて、嬉しく、また少しだけやっぱり残念な気持ちもあります。これ今回、日本の事例ということなんですけども、すいません。勝手に、フィンランドでは割とこういう、少なくとも日本資料で、前近代のもので使ってっていう事例自体が、珍しいだろうというふうに勝手に思っていたところもあるんですけども、他の国の資料とかを使ってっていうような動きも、あまりない状況なんでしょうか。
はい、コメントと質問ありがとうございます。私が知っている範囲では、中国学ではこういうようなイベントが孔子学院との提携であるようなんですね。例えば東アジアに関しては、韓国については、韓国語や韓国文化のコースが新しいということもあって、今のところそんなにこのような事例は聞いたことがないです。あと一人、今は定年退職された先生なんですけれども、東アジア全般で特に、ロシアとモンゴルの少数民族の言語を専門家にされている先生がいて、その提携でロシアの例えばサハリンの地域の資料を公開するとか、それからモンゴルの資料を公開するというイベントが開催されていたようです。
なるほど、わかりました。ちょっとまたこれからご連絡してご相談させていただいて、いい形で、せっかくやはり、学生さんに対してもそうなんですけども、ものすごくいい成果が上げられているのにもかかわらず、なんか思ったような成果が、評価ですね、が得られていないっていうのはすごく残念に思うので、ちょっともう少しやはり発信の仕方をこれから考えないといけないのかなというふうに改めて思いました。勉強になりました。またこれからもよろしくお願いします。
ありがとうございます。日本側でもいろんな発表の仕方があると思いますし、フィンランドのおかげでオスロ、ノルウェーにも、オスロとベルゲーに、小さいレクチャーですけども来ていただくことができましたし、小さい、環境として小さい北欧のいいチャンスですので、ぜひこれからも何らかの形で、一緒にお仕事ができたらと思います。ではこれでよろしいでしょうか。皆さん他にご質問等ありませんか？Thank you very much, Dr. Fuse. So, and we just encourage us to continue our fight.